Hey folks, well the Leafs, they tamed the Wild, headed out to Seattle, finished up February on a nice high note. They made their way through the West, but the landscape of the Eastern Conference is starting to shift dramatically. We're going to break it all down for you right here on the OZone.
You're in the offensive zone, your place for Leafs hockey.
Hey folks, welcome to the OZone. That's Coach, that's Katie, and I'm the Devo. We're here to talk all things Leafs. Listen to you. I'm coming from the OZone HQ here in downtown Toronto. Coach, where are you at today?
So I'm in the U.S. headquarters down in Dallas-Fort Worth. Just back from Seattle, fellas. Went and saw our boys beat Seattle, the Kraken.
Nice.
Beautiful. Katie, what's the scene on the East End tonight?
Well, we're learning out here in the East End. Siri and I learned how to spell Eric Gustafsson. 1K, 3 S's. Who knew?
Yeah, it's true. Listen, folks, before we get started, we need you to subscribe, ring the bell, never miss any content. Listen, like and share the video. It helps spread the word. But most importantly, right now, leave a comment on these videos. We're going to be opening up the mailbag pretty soon as we get to the end of trade deadline, and we want to know what you have to say. We're going to bring it out right here on the pod, so make sure you do that. You know the drill. Okay, February is now officially in the books for the Leafs. Since we last spoke, the Leafs patiently waited out the Wild and came away with a big OT win. What a goal by Nylander on that Friday night. Jeez. Then headed to Seattle to blow out those pesky Kraken. So, Katie, before we get into some of the other shenanigans that have happened around the league and the Leafs, let's start with you and what you saw in these last couple games. What'd you see?
Well, on the D side, we saw a lot of Liljegren and Giordano. I think they were playing pretty well together. Not sure if the coach had the inside track on what was about to happen, but he certainly seems to have been combining those two. Obviously, in that second game, they both dominated the score sheet, but both very comfortable playing together, and looking like this might be the third pair going forward into the playoffs. I will say one thing I'm not a little concerned about, not that happy with, and maybe that's going to change too, is the third line. We did see a big goal from Kemp against Minnesota, but that was actually more of a half a shift. He got to play with the second line there, and Nylander got him that goal. Right. Other than that, they've been sort of badly outshot the last two games and not really doing a whole lot to produce. So, with Engvall now gone, maybe that bottom six will go into the blender a little bit the last 20 games here.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, and Acciari's been playing excellent. You might see him up on that third line. Coach, you got a good look at Climate Pledge Arena on Sunday. What'd you think?
I did. I took some pictures. I'll get through them quick because I know we got a lot to cover. But yeah, it's at Seattle. Here's that public market, that's the arena, the roof of the arena from that Space Needle thing. Mrs. Coach and I went up there for about 35 seconds. That was a well-spent $28 each. So outside the rink, here's my buddy Googs. Hey, what a tremendous guy. Beer league player, played with us for a long time. Then he moved out there. So you may say, what's the old coach doing with his arm around a guy with a Kraken jersey on? Well, hey, he had been a Habs fan till he moved. So this is a big step up for us. Yeah. Here's the seats, pretty good seats. I mean, had a real good look at all three goals in the first period. Oh, by the way, they've got Mr. Hockey out there in Seattle. Could you imagine getting a jersey? What do you want on the back, sir? I just put Mr. Hockey back there. And then the last one here, hey, Kev, you know this guy. It's our buddy Oates.
Yeah.
So Oates lives up in the Pacific Northwest, made the trip down. It was great to see him. I may have seen him once since my wedding, and he was in my wedding. So it was great to see him. Told him I'd get him on the pod. There you go, Oates. There's a shout-out. But, all right, so what did I see, what I like? 6-3 in February. I think that's pretty decent. It was a soft schedule, but we'll take it. I look last two games. Ilya Samsonov is my man.
You're my man,
He's been
Ilya.
fantastic. That Seattle game 5-1 win, but they get the first one, then they get a breakaway, and then they get a 2-on-1. Like it could have been 3-0 in a hurry.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Matthews is buzzing, maybe because he's back with Marner, who is electric again. I like that. We got to get him going for the playoffs. Devo, you mentioned it. I like Noel Acciari. He's on the right side of the puck all the time, plays the right way. Not the high-skilled guy like O'Reilly, but I like him. And then, it's funny. I had my notes, little stuff on the D, which maybe foreshadowed what we'll get into next. I liked Liljegren and Giordano, but I thought Riley and Brody were just okay. And I wrote, hey, 38 is too small. Sandin, he gets pushed off the puck all the time. I suppose we don't have to worry about that anymore.
That's right. Well,
hey, Coach. Last time I saw you and Oates together, you were on the same defense pair, and I actually had a back check because of it.
Oh man, I feel bad for Larry the goalie that game.
all right. Well, just a quick recap for me too. I love the Nylander goal at the end of the game last Friday night. He picked Gaudreau's pocket and danced around Boldy and Gustafsson, and what a sequence! If you haven't seen it, folks, just look it up online. It's one of his biggest highlights of the season. It was.
Hey Devo, don't you think in previous years he'd have given up on that? Like he just give up. Yeah. Right, but he went and got the puck back. It was amazing.
Got the puck back. Yeah. So in previous years, this is how it worked. You either bet that he was going to win the game for you in overtime, or the puck would rattle around the boards and go the other way, and you would lose the game. Very short overtimes when he's out there usually. In addition, Coach, I'm going to double down on this. Samsonov was unbelievable. I mean, he averaged, like a 962 for the last two games. Pretty amazing. I thought Hall was solid against Seattle. Riley, guys, we've talked about it before in pods. Riley is still struggling on the defensive side of the ice. It's nice to see him get some points, but listen, I'm going to digress for now, looking backwards. We're going to start looking forwards now. So speaking of which, we are now moving into March, which is going to be a very busy month for the Leafs. 14 games. 9 of them are on the road. But also March is important because in just a few days here, we're going to have the trade deadline on March 3rd. So the power brokers all seem to be in the East. New Jersey, they added the best player available, that people said, with Mayer. The Rangers, they seem poised, doubling down on forwards. They got Kane to go along with Tarasenko. But here in Leafland, 2 in the division made some moves. First, Boston goes and gets Hathaway and Orlov. KD, that was a player you were watching from Washington. And that's something, Coach. I want to get your feedback on that, because what scares me the most is what's going on inside the division. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'll take the Boston with the D Orlov, and then Kev, you can take Tampa. I actually, the throw in for that deal for Boston was Garnet Hathaway. He's a pretty decent player. Think about the guy we got, Acciari. He's in that mold. 4th line guy, bottom 6 guy, but plays hard and plays the right way. So that's a nice ad for them. They're pretty solid 1 through 12 up front. But really, the real value there is Dmitry Orlov. Great big guy. Playing top pair minutes on Washington. I don't know that on a really good team he's a top pair guy, but he's certainly top 4. But Boston is loaded on the back end. Let's take a look at what they look like here. When they made this trade, before the Leafs had turned over some stuff, which we'll talk about next, Lindholm, McAvoy, Orlov, and Carlo, we've got maybe 2 guys that cracked their top 6 in this look here. So that was then. I think Dubas recognized that now too. How are you going to beat that team? Other than, you got to outscore them, right? And how are you going to outscore them with that D? That's a good trade for them. They're loaded.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Before we get ahead of ourselves and start looking at Boston, KD, our most likely first round opponent is going to be Tampa. They also seem to get better. They got Tanner Jeannot. The give up here, I question, but I do really like the player. What do you think of the trade here, and how does it affect the first round for the Leafs?
Yeah, certainly. I like the player too. I think he's a good ad. What they paid for him is still, I'm not quite sure I understand, but certainly if you looked at the last couple of years when Toronto plays Tampa Bay does like to believe they can bully Toronto. That's been their style. If you look actually after the first round, Tampa Bay would get less hits and less penalties in the matchups they played after the Leafs series. So they really think that they can push Toronto around. Adding Jeannot, I think, was along that vein for sure. Now, granted, I think he goes beyond just the Leafs. I think he's a good bottom six guy and very similar to the guy we added and the guy that Boston added. Kind of the same way, tough and mean, and,
Yes.
and can play the right way and lots of intensity. But we'll see. Hopefully this will be a Leaf team that doesn't that bends and doesn't breaks and doesn't and scores on the power play. They're going to get with this Tampa Bay team. They're going to get lots of chances to score. You score a bunch of goals on the power play, the game will get less physical, guaranteed.
There's no question. Giving up 5 picks for a bottom 6 guy is it's something else. But listen, Tampa kind of has been quietly doing this the last few years, loading up on line 3 guys that really show up for them in the postseason. So this has fit their format, and they've got some cups. So it's kind of hard to question.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. I think you nailed it, Kev. The Leafs are built for speed. And even some of the guys that they added, those bottom 6 forwards they added, certainly Lafferty, that guy has wheels. I mean, I think he slots in right away as the fastest guy on the Leafs, because I think he's probably top 10 in the league in terms of just blazing speed. It'll be interesting to see how he fits in with the Leafs. It'll be interesting to see if that ultimately is really the style. The David against Goliath. And the Leafs try to outskate Tampa and control the puck, and Tampa tries to tilt the ice and weigh on them. So it'll be interesting to see. A classic matchup.
You don't have to explain the concept of speed to Kev and I. Well, I mean, we terrorize beer league teams with our speed. We're just tough to play against, Kev.
I thought you were going to say you just terrorized beer. I thought you were going to leave it at that.
You're pretty quick to get the beer, too.
Yeah. I still have a good post.
All right, guys, our loyal subscribers and viewers have listened to us go on and on and on, and we haven't even sort of hit some of the big juice, some of the breaking news. So let's wrap this up by getting to some of the biggest news of the week, certainly for Leafs fans as we get closer and closer to the deadline. The Leafs have gone bananas this weekend for sure, and today was no exception as well. First, the big trade, the Leafs added McCabe and Lafferty from Chicago. Then they swapped Sandin to Washington for Gustafsson and a first-round pick. And then, not to be outdone, Dubas shipped Engvall to the Islanders for a third and gave up a third to get Luke Schenn. Jeez, KD, I remember asking you and Coach just a few days ago that if they just added Luke Schenn, would it be enough? They've done a lot of heavy lifting in the last 48 hours. KD, what do you think of the club overall after these trades?
It's going to be hard. There's so many new guys in. We have to start watching to see how they play against each other. I mean, if you look at practice right now, it looks like spring tryout. Like there are 9 defense out there. I don't think. Yeah. I don't. It's going to look a little wonky. Like I'm not sure who's playing with who. Clearly, the Leafs have to move someone out. None of these guys can be optioned to the Marlies, and one of them's got to go. And likely it's going to be Hall, but it could also be Timmins. So I think that's one of those guys going out. And then the neat part is you got lots of different combinations. 2 of the new guys can play on both sides, and you have obviously heavy guy with Schenn. Just a lot of potential combinations out there. I think the real key thing is one, you got to get Riley right. So we need to get someone beside him and get him back playing to all-star caliber level. And then I do think it's going to be pretty interesting. The bottom four combos, second and third. I mean, there's going to be a ton of different combinations. So, fortunately, you got 20 games to figure it out, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, for sure. And, even if you were to just sort of take like the lowest hanging fruit and just sort of take the biggest, slowest guys and sort of say like Giordano and Schenn or Gustafsson and Schenn as your bottom pair, it still seems to be something that the Leafs haven't had since Muzzin and Hall were able to patrol back there. Coach, what do you think about just the D as we stand right now? Because that's enough of a mouthful.
Yeah, for sure. So you're right. We have to move a D out, not because of cap considerations. I think there's about $4.8 million left. You could activate Murray right now and be okay. The problem is then you can't sign Matthew Nyes. So you need about $800K there. So there's going to be another move. 9D is too many. It's lopsided. So somebody's going to move out. And then that 13th forward could be Nyes, could be somebody else, but we'll see. So I started messing around. I talked to our graphics department. All right, what does it look like? The D pairs here. We're assuming Connor Timmins is not in the picture anymore. So sanding out the new guys in. The key is you already touched on. Morgan Riley needs a good, capable player beside him. And to me, that's either TJ Brody or Jake McCabe. I think they're going to start with McCabe to see how that works. But if you put it together this way and you want Gustafsson to play, then I think it's Riley and either Brody or McCabe. And then it's Giordano and either Brody and McCabe, the other guy. Right. That's your top four. And then Gustafsson can play with one of Liljegren, Hall, or Schenn. That's pretty solid. Two solid guys are not going to play, right? But here's the thing about Gustafsson. He's not that big. He's 6 feet. He's an offensive defenseman. He's an okay defender. He's a Sandin replacement. He's basically that same guy who's a little bigger and a little older. I don't think he cracks the top six. So I think what they do is something like this. Riley still plays with Brody or McCabe on the right side. The other of those two, though, moves to the left, which slots Gio down. So let's say Cape's playing with Brody. Then you got McCabe with Liljegren. That's a solid pair as well. And then Gio is rock solid, right, on the left side with either Hall or Schenn. That's pretty solid defensively, guys. The best part about this trade is that you get McCabe, who is a legit top four guy on any team, for third pair money. And you have that for 2 more years as well, right?
That's the
how much? I mean, all year, haven't we said how great it is that we have Gio? We get Gio for league minimum, and that guy is a second or third pair guy, right? That's awesome. So it's always compared to what you pay him. So he's a steal at $2 million, McCabe. Yeah. This is a great deal for us.
Yeah, I agree. It's a great deal for now because I think it certainly gives them a lot of flexibility, as you said, to build that top six in the best possible way. And if that means Brody and McCabe both playing on the same side, you might be knocking Gustafsson and a Hall out, and so be it. And it's not the end of the world. And not only that, we've lost Muzzin how many times in playoff series over the last few years. You might have to dig into that depth pool a little bit. So, all right, folks, that's the general rundown on what's happened thus far. The deadline hasn't passed, so technically it's not done. Honestly, I think the Leafs are probably done adding serious names to the starting rotation. But I say that sort of. They got to get rid of a D, so and maybe a little bit of cap room. Coach doesn't think so, but they may look to try to do that. And if you're moving pieces, there could be something happening. Who knows? Dubas obviously was hell-bent on keeping his prospects. He used most of his capital and guys he didn't see a future with, and that seemed to work out pretty well. So there you have it. We've got great flexibility on the back end. We got some guys that we get to keep for beyond this season. So I think that's also fantastic too. Will it be enough to challenge Tampa? Don't know. Tampa won't be easy, but the Leafs are certainly a lot better now than they were 4 days ago. And I would say Tampa's a bit better too, but I think we closed that gap or maybe leapfrogged them a little bit. There you have it, folks. there's a good chance that all this becomes irrelevant in the next few hours. And we're very happy you watched it.
Disclaimer. Yeah.
But whatever happens, we've got you covered. We'll report any changes right for you, right here on the OZone.